All right, hello there, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Masmorra.
And I'm Viper.
And this is the second episode of your new favorite Age of Empires 2 podcast, which we are now calling Town Center, or The Town Center. We read all your funny and interesting suggestions regarding the name of the podcast, but at the end of the day, there was a clear winner in terms of the popular vote, and thus The Town Center is the name we've decided to adopt. Thank you so much, Harry Lees, for the great suggestion. The Podcastle would have been a second close for me. What about you?
I actually had the same one as my
there was
potentially. It just kind of aligns, right? It feels like it makes sense.
There was a Podcastle age. That was a little bit too much.
Podcastle, stretching it a bit. But Town Center is like, it's perfect. It's like where we gather to enjoy ourselves. And
perfect. We love the suggestion. Thank you so much. Anyway, guys, the feedback for the first episode was great, and we're very glad that a lot of people seem to enjoy the work we're doing here. And for this episode, you can pretty much expect more of the same. Today, we'll be talking about the new DLC for Age of Empires 2, which now has an official release date, the balance changes brought about by the April patch. We will discuss the recently finished Rage Forest 4 tournament and the fact Viper's team, unsurprisingly, hasn't won a single series in that tournament. We will also look ahead into the next major Age of Empires 2 tournament, MAMTV's King of the Desert 5, and there will also be a short Q&A segment towards the end of the episode where we'll answer some of the questions you guys had for us in the comment section of the last episode. May 16th has now been officially announced as the release date for Age of Empires 2's next DLC, Return to Rome. And if nothing else, Viper, as far as I'm concerned, this DLC has got to be the most confusing DLC ever.
Yes, for sure. I mean, like, I don't think anyone really 100% understands yet how it's going to play out.
Right. Let's let people know what we do know. So for the past few months, the only official information we had was that it was going to be a port over of the Age of Empires 1 civilizations into the Age of Empires 2 engine as a separate game mode. And
was that even officially like?
Right, it was assumed. You're
Yeah.
totally right. It wasn't actually totally official, and I think that means basically adding all the quality of life features of the Age of Empires 2 engine to Age of Empires 1. That would be stuff like military formations, better pathfinding, if you'll believe it.
Questionable.
Trade cards, what have you, gates, spectator mode, and so on. They didn't have a spectator mode. Can you believe this? Anyway.
Crazy.
And that's kind of cool and all, but if you're an Age of Empires 2 fan only, like me, that doesn't sound like something to be incredibly excited about,
Yeah.
There had been rumors that the Romans could be added to Age of Empires 2 based on a few leaked screenshots, but none of it was official. Then, 2 days ago, the first teaser was released, and the rumors were indeed proven to be accurate. In the description of the teaser, it was announced the Romans would be a playable civ in Age of Empires 2. And that did seem to get a couple of people excited about it, but unfortunately, the excitement was very short-lived. A few hours later, they edited the description of the video to clarify the Romans would only be available for single-player and unranked multiplayer. Now, I'm going to be honest. Considering all the information available, I'm not terribly hyped about this DLC. I mean, I'll still buy it, probably. I want to support the game, and if that's what it takes to keep the service running and the tournament's coming, shut up and take my money, I guess. How do you feel about it?
Well, I think we also have, I see some writing as well now where it's like Romans might be added to multiplayer after tackling balance issues.
Oh, I did not see that.
I don't know if that's, like, I just saw like a little screen capture on Twitter. I don't know if that's like something that the devs posted or if that's just people assuming or hoping. But yeah, to me it's like, again, it's like a bit of a roller coaster, right? But like personally, I'm also a content creator, right? And I've played some Age of Empires 1 and enjoyed it as well. So for me, it's like, I'm happy about this anyway. It's going to be fun to dive into it and just grind it out, see what happens. I think there's also one new civilization for Age of Empires 1 that is completely new. Surprise, surprise, it's a Vietnamese civ.
We shall be talking about what that could mean, indeed. So I didn't know about that part about the adding it to multiplayer later.
I read it somewhere. I don't know if that's
we're
actual.
Speculating here, but that would be kind of weird to me because, a lot of the civs that were released, some of them were released in a pretty bad shape and some would release slightly, let's call it OP, which is a well-known business decision. But I think in the world of Age of Empires 2, this hasn't been too bad, has it?
Well, you had like Cumans for initial release of Cumans,
right? But then you get Bengalis and Dravidians.
Burgundian. I mean, it makes sense for them to make the new civs a little bit strong, so they are like appealing to people and they want to play them in multiplayer and therefore buy the DLCs.
Right.
But yeah, I think overall, I mean, still, this game is 20 years old, and considering the fact how old it is, even if you remove any new DLC or anything, the balance of the game was actually incredible for how long it was untouched, right? And it's only been improved upon ever since then. New civs have tended to tilt the scale a little bit, but I think they've done an amazing job with the balance overall. And I mean, we're going to get to the newest patch lately as well. But yeah, I wouldn't personally be worried if they add romance. It's like OP, because personally as well, I'm like, I play multiplayer, I play random civ. I don't really care what civ I get. But obviously for tournaments, it could be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I mean, again, if it comes to multiplayer, I assume they will do their due diligence and actually balance it correctly. But yeah, like for me, it's like a bit weird because I feel like it's going to be very much an Age of Empires 1 civ. So it's going to be weird to have like Age of Empires 1 kind of look, feel, playing against Age of Empires 2 civs.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part what might be weird for me, but how about yourself?
Yeah, it's so interesting to me that this seems the kind of thing that to a lot of people kind of is a bridge too far, right? That they include the Romans because they do not fit into the timeline of Age of Empires 2. Now, I gotta say, as far as I'm concerned, I play Age of Empires because it's an incredibly fun game. I really don't mind the historical aspect of it at all. And so I was kind of surprised, and this is not a critique. I mean, people like games for different reasons, that for sure. So to me, that would not be a thing at all, that Romans do not fit the timeline. I mean, I guess I would like to see drones or planes, a warplane in Age of Empires 2, but apart from that,
you want to keep it kind of medieval-ish, and like, so it's you don't want the modern.
Yeah, let's not see a tank in there or a machine gun.
Like the gunpowder we have is like as already like that's the limit. We don't want more gunpowder or further historic advancements. Right. So I completely agree with you on that.
Right. So but to a lot of people, and again, I'm not criticizing, it's just the way they feel about the game, which is totally fine as far as I'm concerned.
We have civs like Byzantines, Italians, which kind of fit the
Roman Empire.
But then again, you have also like, I've seen some people like post memes and make fun of people that don't like the Roman that they are entered, because there's like so many other things in the game that actually don't make sense.
Make sense, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like,
in the end, it's like, is this the bridge too far for you?
Yeah, you're nitpicking, like trying to find exactly like things to complain about almost. Like if you don't like it, you don't have to play it. It's pretty simple, right?
At the end of that is that. All right, so Orion, you just mentioned it. This to me feels like a very clear push to try to get that huge AoE 1 Vietnamese player base to finally adopt a new version of the game. Yeah. And I don't know if people are actually aware of how big that player base really is. So I came prepared with a few facts for you guys. The biggest AoE 1 streamer, Chim Sadie Nong, is actually a colleague of yours over at Facebook. He's got over 1 million followers there. I've seen him hit over 100,000 live viewers. I've seen he's got his own marketing team. He's got his own studio. He even has his own line of food, if you'll believe it. What? Yes. With 180,000 followers or something.
That's insane.
Yeah, and if that does not sound crazy enough, how about this? This is something one of my viewers has told me. In 2020, the Vietnamese police have arrested and convicted 56 people for running an AoE 1 betting ring. I'm not joking. Well, the viewer might have been joking, but I don't think he was. The whole operation was run from a website which apparently had over 350,000 registered accounts.
Wow.
So this kind of gives you an idea of how big the player base is. Now, unfortunately for Microsoft, most of that player base is still playing the original CD version of the game, which I'm told works surprisingly well on modern PCs. Yeah. Microsoft did release a DE version for AoE 1, but from what I heard, the release was nothing short of a disaster and a catastrophe.
In Vietnam.
Well, yes, but not only that, it was riddled with bugs, and I think it was Windows Store only at first. It was not available on Steam.
Makes sense. Yeah.
They did not have a ranked ladder, so a lot of things. Pathfinding was apparently
surprise
very bad. Right, so basically no one has moved over. Will this be enough to convince this player base, this Vietnamese player base especially, to move over? What do you think?
Like my concern there would always be like I think that one of the reasons so many people stuck with Age of Empires 1, the original as well, is because they probably couldn't afford a new computer or things like that. And like, also I think they had like a deal, Microsoft, with the Vietnamese government in the past, where it was like every computer Windows installed would have Age of Empires 1 pre-installed. So like every net cafe or where you would go and play video games without having your own computer, Age of Empires 1 will be there. And that's why so many people ended up playing it.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, like I feel like there's so many people that probably can't afford or to upgrade a computer to be able to run the modern day games, such like Age of Empires, like even Age of Empires 2 DE these days requires quite a lot of computer power. So the question is, how much of an upgrade is AoE 1 Return to Rome? Like it's going to be played on AoE 2. As we saw in the teaser, you kind of saw the two logos merge. So they're going to need pieces that can run Age of Empires 2 pretty much, DE. Can enough people have access to that in order to make it a success and transition for all the Vietnamese people? I don't know. I mean, I would love to see it. I would love to just have like Age of Empires 2 player numbers explode because the whole Vietnamese scene is coming into it, right? But yeah, like again, it's like this is above my pay grade in terms of knowledge, like how it's gonna work out and such. But I'm excited for it personally, from a personal point of view, from playing it, and also really excited to see how it's actually going to impact the whole scene of Age of Empires 2 and Age of Empires 1 as well.
I'm pretty sure I played it, but I have so little memory of it. And you just mentioned it before. They did add a Vietnamese civilization to AoE 1 that would be the Lac Viet. And again, if it wasn't clear enough that Vietnam is the target audience of this DLC. And they also added a specific game mode, which is apparently very popular in the Vietnamese community. They're calling it the D3 game mode.
Right.
I think I've been told it's sort of like a deathmatch, fast-paced mode.
The way it works is that you pretty much don't fight until third age. Like you're not allowed to fight until Bronze Age, which I think is the third age. That's kind of their competitive game mode, how they play it. Obviously, it's a bit weird for me to hear that. I mean, also they have this thing where you can like, in the middle of the game, you can enter the statistics screen and see how many villages the opponent has.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, are they going to bring that into the game as well? Because suddenly, if they use Age of Empires 1 now with all the AoE 2 features, they're changing the game completely.
A lot, yeah.
So it's like, if the AoE 1 community already is so stubborn on playing the original game, you're bringing them into Age of Empires 2, which on paper could be amazing, but you're also changing the game they've played for 20 plus years completely.
That makes me a little bit less hopeful. I don't know.
But like, I could never imagine playing a competitive real-time strategy game, and in the middle of the game, I'm just going to check the stats, see all this information about my opponent, right? It makes no sense. You shouldn't have that. I mean, we already have like score visible in Age of Empires 2.
I was about to say that. People complain about score being too telling sometimes. Yeah. Now imagine you can see the number of villagers of your opponent.
It's insane. And also, you mentioned spectator mode earlier. They cast the tournaments from player POV the whole time.
Crazy.
It's super super funny, actually, that they've kept.
That's how we used to do it in Age of Empires 2 a couple of years ago. For those of you who don't remember anymore.
We're spoiled.
Maybe they're going to get capture age, maybe? Is that something that might be included? I have no idea about the technical aspect of that.
I would imagine that makes sense, right? But there also is a chance that they wait and see how this all like plays out. Like, let's see the first month, maybe 2, if it makes sense to invest into capture age for that as well.
Right.
But I mean, at this point, why not, right?
And maybe the controller player base now, which we don't know how big it is, but they probably are going to be able to play AoE 1 too, right?
That makes a lot of sense. I think, by the way, on that, I think AoE 4 is also coming to Xbox eventually.
I did not know that.
I would imagine. I don't know if there's any official information or if there's even confirmed, but why not?
Yeah, I'd be terribly surprised if not. I mean, if they're gonna, it seems like they're investing in that market. By the way, you did meet Mr. Sedinong actually in Heidelberg last year, right, for Red Bull Legacy. Did you talk to him a little bit?
The funny thing there was like I knew that 2 of the Vietnamese players are coming there, like the 2 that qualified. But I didn't really know what they look like, who they are, and they came up to me and I was told, like, the translator told me that they are fans of me.
Wow!
So that was a pretty cool thing.
Crazy.
Like, bit of a obviously they're the top players in AoE 1, right? But apparently they follow AoE 2 as well, right? So because they knew about me and wanted a photo and such, so that was pretty cool. Obviously, I couldn't talk too much with them. English was a bit
they cannot limited. English, okay.
But yeah, it was a nice experience. They seemed like super nice guys as well. And
did he have like a posse of people behind him, Mr.?
I think one of them had like I don't remember to like separate because there were 2 of them, right? One of them had like family with him and like a wife,
but like a makeup artist or a cameraman following him around.
It wasn't like that. It wasn't like Justin Bieber walking around. No.
All right.
It seemed like a normal situation.
Yeah, but they were apparently kind of superstars in their country.
Yeah,
I mean,
but obviously they were here in Heidelberg in Germany, a small town with like a nice castle.
Right. Just to wrap this up, Viper, I think at the end of the day, their goal is to unite the AoE 1 player base pretty much the way they did with Age of Empires 2.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, before DE, we had people playing on Voobly, on HD, on Game Ranger, and now it does feel like the vast majority of players has adopted the DE version.
Actually, the player numbers still on Age of Empires 2 HD edition is still fairly high.
They haven't gone down that much.
No, it's crazy. It's so stable. It's insane. They don't know what they're missing.
People just don't want to, do not want to change their routines, especially as you get older. I noticed that myself.
Yeah.
But anyway, I do hope they succeed in doing that for Age of Empires 1. Would 100%. Be awesome. Just imagine you open Steam charts and you see 100,000 people play Age of Empires 2. Well, a big portion of those would actually be AoE 1 players, but as far as Steam is concerned, it's AoE 2.
Yeah.
All right, so April was also the month that gave us the single biggest patch ever, as the devs described it. The patch was actually mainly focused on buffing infantry units and trying to make them a bit more viable in general. There is a whole array of buffs to specific infantry units, and of course a new technology, the Gambazons, which is available to a few civs in the Castle Age and adds +1 pierce armor to the militia line. It's been 2 weeks now since the patch was released. How do you feel about it?
So, balance changes, everything there, super fun, super good. I really like the new direction the game is. It's not a new direction per se, but like I feel like they've opened the possibilities for infantry to be viable. They also changed a lot with the unique units, infantry units like Samurai, Teutonic Knights, Jaguar Warriors, World Raiders, Vikings, Berserks. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that, which is super exciting for myself because I like variation. I just really want to see more unique units and variety in terms of civs. But yeah, the Gambazons in particular, like civs like Celts, Japanese, Burmese, all these civs, they suddenly have like a timing window, it feels like in early Castle Age.
Where they can use the technology.
Exactly. Like if you have come out of Feudal Age with a decent start, like take Burmese for example. Actually, now that I say that, I do not even remember if they have Gambazons.
Yeah, Burmese do have them because I thought that's got to be broken because they had the attack, right?
Let's just go for a civ that we know has it. Slavs, 100%.
Right.
They get it for free.
Got it for free.
Exactly. So Slavs, like imagine you got to come into Feudal Age, you have that farm bonus, so you get a really good food eco, and suddenly you hit Castle Age 1.5 minutes before your opponent. That timing window there to use longswords with Gambazons and such, it's huge. I played games with like Teutons, for example, against Britons, and I just go longswords early Castle Age because I have a better timing, and it feels so hard to stop.
Okay.
Of course, it depends a bit on maps and such, but again, I don't think infantry are suddenly the meta.
Super viable.
Exactly. They have a timing window, but I don't think they're going to change up like Knights crossbow meta too much in a competitive game. But all the other balance changes in general, like to me, at least so far, playing it, I'm super happy about it. Now, there are other things in the patch that I'm not so happy about.
Feel free to speak about it.
There are some like pathing issues and like units freezing right before they engage. There's
tale as old as time.
There's just like this behavior you don't expect. Like when you do something with your units, you kind of expect them to behave in a way, which also makes you play accordingly. Okay, I'm going to move these units here, and
even
this
if it's a broken way, you just want the broken to be the same all the time.
You want consistency. But when they don't behave the expected way, it suddenly impacts your play in a bad way. Obviously not good, but if
not
they
good.
can,
no bueno.
If they can get over those hurdles and like not break half of the game with every patch, it will be amazing, right? Because again, balance changes to me are like spot on this time.
Okay.
Even civ changes in general. If you ignore the infantry part, really excited for those. Now we just need to fix the small issues, and then we're good. But from you, I'm not sure if you've played any yourself.
Yes, I played it. And I was just about to ask you. So I'm a 1600 Arabia player, so nothing to brag about. I mostly play Arabia and only play 1v1s. But as far as I'm able to see, and I don't play a whole lot of games to be fair, but I don't see people trying these things.
Okay.
I don't
you
see
watch
it at
my
all.
stream then?
No, I mean at my level. I mean you're very close to my level, but at my level I do not see it at all. So do you feel like, do you see your pros, your colleagues actually trying these changes and see if they can make it viable for, let's say, King of the Desert 5?
Okay, I feel like in my games, I try it more than the others. They more react to what I'm doing more often than not. I mean, I've seen like probably like an MBL, for example. I don't see him trying the infantry much, but surely Hera has tried it. Doubt, of course, Tato. But yeah, now that you mention it, I don't really watch too many other people play or stream all the time.
Right, it's just the feeling when you play against people. Do you feel like they're trying these things against you?
Yeah, probably, but not to the extent I was probably expecting. But maybe they've already made up their mind and be like, this is not viable, so therefore they're not bothering.
Right. I feel like a lot of pros are very quick to judge the changes.
For sure.
Would you agree?
Yeah, of course. That's what we do, right? We're on stream and people ask us, hey, what do you think of this?
You gotta
thumbs
have
up or thumbs down, right? No, thumbs down or thumbs up. Yeah. Like I made a prediction tier list as well myself. Like I predicted how the whole patch is going to play out.
How confident are you that's going to actually be accurate?
I'm going to revisit like after King of the Desert, I think, to see. I think most of it is going to be somewhat correct, but I was probably a bit ambitious, like put Malians in Malay S tier, for example.
S tier? Okay, Malians maybe. I see people trying them a lot.
Yeah. That extra dropping of extra gold suddenly puts them back up there, I think. Malay, though, I'm not sure, but they get free armor.
Free armor
now.
Yep.
It's actually insane. I know Nico, for example, is not happy with that change.
Why?
Well, I don't want to out this information, but he said that like this is the most toxic thing to play against. So
all right,
I'm not sure exactly how he's playing, what he's running into, but
a secret strategy might be in the works here.
Who knows?
Okay, so I love balance changes, and you just said you love them too. I love hearing people talk about them. I love seeing all the videos, testing the changes, and I think it does help keep the game fresh. And as you said, I obviously wouldn't mind if they didn't come. If they weren't accompanied by game-breaking bugs all the time. But, you know, to me and to a lot of us, this is literally just fun in games. So I wonder, how does a professional player who makes a living out of winning tournaments, how do you feel about these changes? Do they happen too frequently to you? Should they take a little bit more time before they bring these changes?
Right, so I'm in the position where I'm, let's say, 50-50. Like, I'm a content creator, but I'm also competing in the tournaments, right?
Right.
So I would say, like, from the content creator perspective, I think it's a fine level right now of changes, right? It's not too frequent. I think it's like on average maybe every 3 months, maybe the last couple of years. It's been like every 3 to 4 months, and I think that's fine, right? Because you have the 3-4 months. I mean, again, these patches aren't like, oh, the whole game is changing. Like, for example, in other games you have like changes to heroes in like League of Legends or Dota, where like the meta just gets completely changed.
They shifted very quick, yeah.
In Age of Empires 2, it still stays the same. It's just civs kind of take steps up and down and get more viable per se, and I think that's the right way to do it as well, because you cannot like do a complete overhaul of Age of Empires 2. It would change too much then. I mean, people have played this game for 20 years because they like it. That, right,
exactly,
right. Yeah.
You need soft changes.
But yeah, like you said as well, you said earlier that these changes help keep the game fresh. I think that's one of the most important things at the moment, because if again we didn't have any balance changes last 10 years, how many people would probably fall off the game over time? I think a fair few would get bored eventually. So these changes makes you always have to adapt, kind of reinvent, try to come up with new stuff, and it gives you opportunities to come up with new stuff as well. And other civilizations get to see the spotlight compared to others. But anyway, as a competitive player, I think they're striking the balance pretty nicely, and I think like the timing every 3 to 4 months is a good level, because you get to have like 2-3 tournaments usually within that time frame. And as a competitive player, I think that's pretty good.
That's enough. I thought they did us dirty with the change to the organ guns. Both of us. We're both big Portuguese fans.
But they are in the public update preview. They're having.
That's the thing. That's the thing. After watching Spirit of the Lost video, I thought, well, what have they done to our dear Portuguese? But then I saw Ornlu's video, where it does seem like they're not that bad anymore. Have you actually tried them?
I actually have not tried them at all.
Okay.
I think I played Portuguese once or twice since the patch, and I haven't had the opportunity to like make them. But I'm happy I didn't try them, because apparently they are bugged right now in the live version. Yeah. In the live version, they're bugged. They're not doing the correct.
Right, so that's why they have the PvP.
Exactly, that have the changes in the public update preview. So I'm kind of waiting for that now before I try them. Hopefully that gets pushed fast, because apparently that's supposed to fix the majority of the issues we have with the newest patch. So
the most glaring issues, yeah.
But on that, like, because you played yourself a little bit, but you also watch a fair bit of Age of Empires. Do you see other people trying? Yeah, never too much. Do you see the infantry meta impacting what you see?
I see it on the pros. I feel like pros are trying it a lot. I personally, like I said, at my level with the game that I'm playing, I don't see people trying it a lot. I think a lot of us just kind of follow what the pros are doing, right? A lot of these meta shifts, if they do occur, they come kind of top down, right? You see pros trying it, and then you kind of try to make the same thing a little bit worse, probably. But yeah, as far as I can see, it's the feeling that I had is exactly what you said, that early Castle Age, this could be a big surprise, because our people are so used to have longswords be this really simple army to deal with, right? And then all of a sudden they could be a little bit of a surprise. And if you have a decent number, they take TCs down so fast, right? There could be a couple surprises here, I think.
Yeah, feudal age buildings as well have quite low HP, or like walls, and especially you can sneak in arson quickly with like maybe Dravidians, because it's cheaper, those walls disappear in an instant, right? And the thing is, you can also make those men-arms on the way to Castle Age. So it's the same thing as where like you hit Castle Age with archers alive, suddenly you have 15 crossbows. You can hit Castle Age with like 8-9 men-arms potentially, long swords instantly, and it's a scary
Could be dangerous. Could be dangerous. One thing I'll say I dislike about the balance changes is that it feels to me like they do not test them enough. I have an example here.
Okay.
I suspect they reverted back to change to the Chinese start because after they watched the Spirit of the Law video about it, which kind of showed that there's barely any difference between the old start and the start that they intended on putting in, which they didn't. Now, of course, Spirit is brilliant in these types of analysis, and I guess 80% of me is actually really thankful devs do read and listen to the feedback of the community. But then the other 20% of me goes like, well, shouldn't you have tested this yourself?
That makes sense.
So and I feel like this to a couple of other changes as well. With the organ guns, I kind of feel like was a little bit of the same thing. Spirit of the Law tested it and saw that a couple of units didn't really make sense in how good they were against organ guns, skirmishers, for example. And it feels like they changed it after watching Spirit. And I think this is true because Spirit's video analyzing the new organ guns was released after the patch actually came live. And the Chinese one is actually before. So this may be a bit of conspiracy theory here. But again, I like that they're reading. I like that they're seeing what people are saying. That's good. That's great. But maybe a little bit more self-testing wouldn't hurt.
But I mean, like we should be thankful that we have devs that actually are like, we have devs from the community.
That should be absolutely clear. And yes,
we should be very thankful for that. And yeah, I haven't seen the video, but did he also test it and compare like nomad starts, for example? Because I felt like the Chinese start was also maybe directed a bit at like those nomad starts.
Interesting. I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember. Very interesting.
Yeah. But either way, if that's how the math adds up, that it doesn't change the Civ, then why change it, right?
Right. So I think the idea was to try to make it a little bit more equal and more similar to the regular start, even if they didn't change it a whole lot.
Yeah, a little bit more beginner-friendly with the start, and probably like try to lower their level a little bit, but if it doesn't change anything...
at the end of the day, it didn't change too much, so why not have one Civ that has this one specialty, right? I'm curious about something. Does that ultra secret, well, I guess not so secret, the Discord group with pro players and devs still exist?
Yes, we have access to a Discord for those who don't know. A lot of the pros and also people that are just in the community in general that are involved have access to a Discord with the devs where they...
bit closer.
Where they are taking feedback from us pretty much. We can... tell them what we like, what we don't like. We have a bug reporting channel. We can like suggest or talk about features. And it feels like they are reading and responding, but also it feels like they don't really listen sometimes. I mean, since Burgundians was released, everyone in there has said and asked like, what is your argument for keeping Flemish Revolution? We haven't ever gotten a single answer to why they so much want it to be in the game and like it is as well, right? So those things are like a little bit frustrating. Just give us an explanation, like so we understand. Because
maybe they don't have one.
Maybe it makes sense. But yeah, like in general, they do respond, and like especially when we have like big issues that we're bringing up, they're usually responding quite fast. And we have like a channel for every civilization, so like you can go in and talk specifically about Aztecs or Celts, and yeah, like as a player having access to that direct communication is quite nice. And I mean, I feel like also sometimes we have had direct impact on the very balance changes they are proposing, because they also give us a list beforehand of like, hey guys, this is what we're planning to do, what do you think? Where most people respond and just gives like a thumbs up or like, this is unnecessary, this is necessary, this is great, this is bad, you know. And yeah, sometimes I feel like our feedback has been directly directly impacting exactly what change they make. So it's a very good thing, but it also gives us a bit of responsibility for it when things go wrong, kind of. But no, it's a big thing, and I think it's a huge thing for the game.
That's very good. One thing I've noticed as well is that a lot of people complain about stuff, and that's people should do it, of course. But whenever people give very specific examples with video proof, sometimes devs will always react, especially on Reddit. You know, if people say, okay, this thing happened to me, look. I always see one dev responding, okay, can you please send me the recorded game? We'll analyze what's happening. So maybe a little bit of a tip here. If you have something that you've seen that you feel like's happening, make sure to have proof, make sure to have a screenshot, make sure to have a recorded game ready, and devs will most likely look at it. That's my impression, at least. The
biggest thing is that you can recreate it, right? Because whenever I brought up something and said like, oh, my units do this and this when I do this and that, they'll ask like, okay, this happens, okay, I believe you, can you recreate it, right? That's what they need, because if they see exactly how it happens, they can fix it, right? So even if it happens to you and you know how it happened and you don't necessarily have footage or video or whatever, if you can recreate it, that's enough.
I think one thing that's absolutely obvious to me, at least, pathing is kind of broken. It's always been in HB. But one thing that I don't like when I see people criticize this, they say pathing is broken.
Right.
That's it.
Pathing is bad.
Pathing is bad. Pathing is broken. Why don't devs fix? Devs fix, please. Show a video, show a screenshot where pathing is obviously being broken, and devs will look into it. That's my impression, and so far it's been proven correct, kind of. All right, Viper, let's turn our attention to Rage Force 4.
Now the juicy starts begins. Use his stuff
and to the tournament scene in general. A few days ago, yet another very successful edition of the Rage Forest tournament is finished. Rage Forest is the yearly 4v4 Black Forest only tournament organized by the Rage Forest community under the leadership of the great Williams. The tournament had a $10,000 prize pool sponsored by Microsoft. Team Barles completely dominated the tournament, and that would be Barles, Lucky Rocks, Andorin, Andre, and Menunes. They didn't lose a single series during the whole event, and they beat Team Valis in the finals. My dear co-host and his team did participate in the tournament, but let me check the record again. Yeah, no wins. Well, what happened there?
Well, did you see my draft? That's my basic defense.
Well,
did you see my first pick?
Who did the draft? Oh, it was you. Interesting.
Yeah. So obviously I have to take part responsibility, but we were a bit unfortunate, to be fair. I'm like to actually talk about the games a little bit. I think we actually had a really good synergy with our team. Probably me and King Mar were the only experienced Black Forest players.
Make sure to the people who didn't follow the tournament to say exactly who your team
So
is.
I had T90 somehow. T90 official, you might know him. The Bloodless, King Marv, Kamigawa, and myself. And yeah, I think we got off to a good foot. Like we started playing a little bit more actively. I was hoping my team would be a little bit more active in finding games and like playing by themselves as well a little bit.
So it was only you.
It was me. King Marv was there quite frequently, and then like I saw Bloodless, Kamigawa, and T90 play a little bit, but I was hoping for a little bit more. I like Rage Force; it's fun, you know.
I love watching it.
Yeah, but yeah, we lost both our sets that we played in the tournament 3-1. The second set was a bit unfortunate because King Marv got sick the same day, so he was arguably
one of your specialists.
He was arguably the most important player besides myself to our team. So it was a bit unfortunate, but overall, I'm still kind of happy with how my team developed, especially like from the first set to the second set. I think they actually improved a lot just from discussing and talking the games, and we had a good feedback and like discussion in general, which I think was really cool to be a part of. To have like, usually if I'm talking strategies and such, I'm talking with like Tato Doubt. These like, they're already the top players.
Right, interesting.
But suddenly I'm discussing strategies with people that aren't necessarily on the absolute tip of the top of the
and might still
scene.
know things you don't know, especially about maps you don't play very often, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like feedback on the civs and such, like King Marv in particular, like we had some discussions there, and like he doesn't like Gorjara that much. I think they have potential, for example, right?
I hear they're bad in Black Forest. Oh, that's what the Black Forest experts claim.
They can be bad.
You don't agree, apparently.
No, they're not good by any means, but like it's like, hey, do we rather have Persians or Gujaras? You know, those types of things.
Right.
But yeah, overall, the tournament was really fun to partake in. I think the drafting thing it's really cool as well because you get to pick your own team.
I love the system.
I will probably draft a little bit different next time. No offense, Tristan, but no, I think it's really cool. And also, like what I've learned so much from the scene as well. The Rage Forest players now, like I know a lot more. Like, oh, this guy's actually really good at this, and this guy's really good at that. So if I was to play a Rage Forest 5, I would also have like a lot of names on my list now, and that's really cool as well because these are a lot of names that I don't see in only one tournament.
On Arabia, for example.
Exactly. So it's really cool to dive into that part of the scene as well. And again, I think the tournament as a whole was a massive success.
Yeah,
I think
it's so fun to watch.
Yeah. And Williams deserves a massive shout out for all the effort to make it like this.
Right. So I just said the tournament was organized by the Rage Forest Discord community. And if you're listening to this and if you're looking for a nice and friendly community to hang out with, make sure to pay the server a visit. I'm, in my very biased opinion, the server really represents, the best this game has to offer. There's people from all over the world hanging out on voice. A lot of us are kind of on the older side of things, with family and kids. But then there's also a bunch of younger folks who make fun of us for being old and boring. It's a really nice and fun atmosphere. And for what it's worth, I'm there almost every morning, and it's 10 out of 10 recommended, or 7 out of 10 in your case.
Nice one. But there's lobbies for every level as well, right?
True.
There's always lobbies being posted there, like inviting people to join. Hey, we need one more, +2, +1. And no matter what your level is, you're probably going to find games there. So if you want to get into the scene and get into the Rage Forest community, that's the place to be. Yeah,
start by watching, right? So again, huge props to Williams and the whole crew for making the server such a welcoming place for newer players. And you should come out and should come and hang out with us someday. Maybe you can coach Savvy. I don't know if you're going to be able to. But going back to Black Forest, Viper, I really want to hear your opinion about this. So we're both old enough to remember the days when Black Forest was considered pretty much a noob map by a lot of people.
Still is.
All right, but we're now at a point where Microsoft is sponsoring a Black Forest tournament only, and we have people like you, Tato, MBL, ACCM, and other top players participating in it. So what changed here?
I still think Black Forest is a noob map, just like Arena is a noob map, because you're starting wall.
He's making air quotes for the people not watching this.
Like you're you're starting inside walls in arena, for example. On Black Forest, you start in your own kind of spot where it's like usually a very small gap to wall. Now, the version we are playing is the Rage Forest version. It has had some adjustments. There's like more balanced pawns. The openings can be wide open or super close. So there's a lot of variation there, and like the whole decision making process of the early age is insane. There's so many things you have to take into account immediately, like right off the start. You have to take your civ, your teammate's civs, your opponent's civ as a whole, like the civ bonuses and everything, and then like who are you facing specifically, maybe on your flank. Do I go with 3 villagers here? Do I try the wall? Do I try to sneak? Like, there's so many decisions you have to make throughout the whole.
And one important point, it's not a boom map.
Exactly.
At least not at the beginning, which is the impression that a lot of people had in the past, I think.
It can be a boom map, don't get me wrong.
But not at the beginning. There was so much action, right? I would say more than on Arabia, right? On Arabia, you have to scout, but you have to Vil War from minute 1 sometimes.
Arabia has a very defined meta in terms of the opening. Like, you'll scout, maybe you go lame on the flank a little bit and such. But on Black Forest or Rage Forest, in this case, you just never know what to expect. Anything can happen at the start. Again, like, it's just the amount of decisions you have to make yourself and as a team in the first 3-4 minutes is way more than you can ever imagine.
And very impactful, right?
Exactly. You can pretty much win the game in the first 5 minutes by making the right moves as a flank, for example. It's... I mean, that's why I also see, like, for example, Team Barls winning in the tournament. Barls is probably the best player in the team, but he was playing flank every single game. Because he feels like, okay, I have people in my pocket positions that can boom and execute that role, but I need to do a good job on the flank to give my team a winning position.
Yeah, and he was bottom scored most of the games.
Exactly.
I've seen that too, like a real team leader. So it's nice to see. Right, so I'll preface what I'm about to say with a clarification that I mostly only play 1v1s, as I just said before, and I've only played like 5 or 4 team games on DE. So I haven't experienced the team game matchmaking at all in DE. Right. But one of the complaints I keep hearing about it is that people are not able to play just one map, and grind that map as much as they want. Which, is a concern I'm personally very receptive to. I mean, you come home late from work, you have time for 1 or 2 games, and you want those games to be played on a map you enjoy, right? And the answer to those folks has always been, well, just use the lobby system. To which they would then say, people would then answer, well, lobbies are not a solution because they're unrated and you can't find balanced games. Right. Which, again, I think is a totally valid concern. But this is why I think things work so well in the Rage Force community. Once you actually grow a community, you just end up playing the same folks over and over again. And at some point, you develop a very good idea of everyone's strengths. And with that knowledge, you kind of can make fair and balanced teams. Yeah, I mean, on that, you even have like games where like 1 or 2 people are inside, but they get like a 5 to 10% handicap just to balance it out because they know how good they are. That was a bit of a troll phase in the Black Forest. They still do it. Like, I don't think they do it too much anymore. I played a game, I think, 2 or 3 days ago where it was like they were still doing it. But obviously not the whole like, you lose 2 and 3 games in a row when you get handicapped. It's more like to actually balance out. Right. So this is not to say everything is perfectly fine with the team game matchmaking. Nothing needs to change. Again, I keep hearing a lot of complaints about it, and I'm sure a lot of them are valid. But I guess my point here is that I don't think the situation is as hopeless as some folks make it out to be. And to me, the Rage Force community seems to me like a pretty good example of that. Yeah, I think it's really hard, though. It's been like a developed community over a long time, right? The Rage Force community. I think it's really hard to like make a channel like that. It's a lot of work, a lot of effort. Again, the amount of time and effort they put into that. We need more Williams for other maps. But on that, I think like the lobby system, matchmaking system, that's probably the next thing that is due for like a serious upgrade. All right. Do you have a few suggestions? Well, first of all, I think they're not taking enough risks with the map pool. Wow. They're limiting it to like 7-8 maps every time. It's usually like the same 3-4 maps on rotation on different spots, like in terms of like closed maps or water maps or land maps. I would like to see a lot more different maps. Careful there. Yeah, we have a lot of like. How many tournaments have we had with such amazing maps throughout the years? Right. I think even back to like Clash of the Titans, even all the way back there. Like, there's so many good maps there. Yeah, people are not gonna remember that tournament. It was Clash of the Titans 2013. I think. Exactly. Yeah. So back then, the whole map pool was huge. Yeah. You would have tournaments with like 30 maps. And now, to be fair, they would not be so careful curated as the maps are these days. For sure. A lot of very mediocre map scripts, I'd say, but still fun maps. Yeah. And a lot of them. The concept, like the basis of how they are created was fun, right? And there's so many tournaments even these days that we don't see these maps in the ladder. And I think as well for people that follow tournaments, it would be very fun for them to be able to play the maps that are played in tournaments, right? And also I think like, why only 7-8 maps? Give us 12, give us 16. Like, why not? Will you then increase the number of bans? Or
yeah, you can obviously increase and maybe give more favorites than one as well, right? But I do agree and understand that whole concept of I want to play my map. I want to play the map I enjoy, right? I don't want to be forced to play like I got Amazon Tunnel the other day. Like I don't want to play this, you know. But I also like all my bans were used up on other maps I didn't want to play. Like I'm that's probably one of the things I'm the least happy about these days, besides pathing, for example, is the lack of variety in map pools, and just that like the map pools aren't great, honestly.
Okay.
I can't say like the Empire Wars map pool obviously have been untouched now forever. But a team game, I think team game map pools.
The M had to die for this.
Team game map pool is probably kind of okay, but yeah, 1v1 I'm not happy every time there's a map pool. I usually end up just like favoriting Arabia and then banning everything else. I wish they would take more risk with map pools. Maybe extend the map pool, give more bans, give more favorites. Just give more people the options to play the maps they want to play. Like if there are like 3 maps there that I want to play, or like let's say you, generally speaking, only want Arabia. If there's a map pool of 16 maps, you're probably going to have 2 or 3 other maps there that you're fine playing. Right. However, when there's only 6, 7, 8 maps, and you want to play like Arabia type of map, the other maps are very unlikely to be Arabia-like. So I think there is a big, strong cause for our case in their sides for like, let us play what we want to play. Again, like you specified as well, like people have families, they're fathers, they come home from work, they sit down in the evening and just have time for 1 or 2 games. They want to play what they want to play.
Especially in a somewhat older community as the one we find ourselves in. And
you also brought up the lobby system. Like, just play lobby. Way easier said than done. The lobby system is horrendous, honestly. It's horrible. It's really hard to find and enjoy games there because half the time lobbies don't even show up, right? So
I heard that's still a thing.
I mean, you are one of those people with families that probably maybe if you play, you sit down in the evening, maybe play 1 or 2 games.
Right.
What is your take?
Well, like I said, I only play. I don't have much to say about the team game matchmaking. I only play 1v1s, as I said. I love the 1v1 matchmaking. And I think it's very different, though, because it's inherently a lot easier to get a good game in a 1v1 matchmaking, right? And as far as I'm concerned, I love it. There are maps I don't like. I'll be honest about it. I'll just, swallow it and just play if I have to. But I hear a lot more complaints. And as I'm reading the forums, I hear a lot more complaints about the team game matchmaking, right?
That makes sense. So, but you think that if you were to sit down and play, you're fine getting Amazon Tunnel, for example?
No.
See, so you're not like, you play if you have to, you're saying. But then people get these maps, but this is also a negative impact on matchmaking in general, because you get this map you don't want to play. What do? You Alt F4. You dodge.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're banned.
No, I totally am very receptive to that. I'm very receptive to that. And there's another big issue, if I'm not mistaken, because if you're queuing for a 4v4 game on your own, you get 1 ban.
Yeah.
So, out of a map pool of 8 maps, or was it 7 maps you said?
Yeah.
You can only ban 1 map. So you're gonna there's a very good chance you're gonna get a map you don't like.
Also on that, something that they really need to look into is like you queue up 4v4. You can queue up by yourself, right? But you get into 4v4 and then one of your teammates Alt F4 or like leave the game at the start.
And you have to wait 5 minutes till you leave the game, right?
Or even if you crash or something, like you end up still, okay, I'm just gonna start up the game again, I'll queue again. Bam, you have like a 5-minute timeout or something.
That sucks.
That's also something they really have to try and look into. Obviously, I don't know, it's really hard to code all these things and whatnot. There's never a perfect solution to everything.
Yeah, and that's the one thing people need to keep in mind.
Yeah.
They will never be able to satisfy all the needs of everybody in the community. Someone is going to find it bad, and that's just how it is.
But they can improve.
To be fair, when I had Will in my show, he did say that's something they're looking into, and that's something they want to, take a few tips from Voobly. Yeah. On Voobly, that's kind of the system we had.
Will as well is like he loves StarCraft 2, for example, and StarCraft 2's matchmaking is great. You just like you ban 3 maps you want. The other maps are usually, but StarCraft is very different with maps in that regard. But like the matchmaking in general is just you just click search and bam, you find the game pretty much. And there's no such thing that's you're gonna get banned or timeouts or this because of the game crashing and things like that.
Right.
So I think he's striving a bit towards getting that fluidity and smoothness of matchmaking, but obviously it's really hard.
All right, and another tournament that's still ongoing is the Nations Cup, Viper. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, it's a bit hard to follow the tournament in general because there's so many teams involved. There's double elimination and such. But I have the brackets in front of me here. We have the semifinals currently going on. Canada played against China. Canada, one of the big surprises, actually. And they won 3-1 against China. So they're in the finals of the upper bracket.
Yeah, they're such a nice team to listen
They're
to,
so
right?
fun to listen to. I watched a bit of Hera's stream the other day and like just listen to like the way Mentalist communicates, for example. It's so nice. Like it's always positive, encouraging, and you just feel like you want to perform well when you're in that team.
Yeah.
And they're all like that. Like they're all just like, and also what really impressed me was their how specific they were, and like they're like very clear. Okay, we have this situation. What are we gonna do?
Let's do
What
this.
are we going for? And they're like all like they're just focused on making the right decision. There's no fighting or like if I'm talking with doubt, I'm like, oh, no, you're stupid. That's stupid. Let's do this instead. You know, there's nothing like that. It's amazing communication there. Absolutely. Finland Argentina is in the other semifinal on the double elimination upper bracket. What's really cool the other day, I saw a Reddit post. Apparently, a news outlet in Argentina with over 3.5 million followers on Twitter.
Diario Ole.
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm butchering it.
And they had a tweet where they like were pointing out that Argentina is in the semifinals of Nations Cup in Age of Empires 2.
How crazy is that?
3.5 million followers. And I think other news outlets as well jumped on that and like spread it out a bit. So
crazy.
So the spread they got in Argentina now is sick. I'm really curious now when they play their next match if it's going to have like a...
If you're going to notice a bump in the viewership numbers, that would be amazing, man. Yeah. It's one thing that it's often... well, I don't know if it's forgotten in other parts of the world, but the South American player base is huge. And if you think about all the top players we got from Brazil, I don't even want to name them because I'm sure I'm going to forget names. But if you think about Riyad, well, now I'm naming him. Riyad, Dogao, Fire, Miguel, Goku, Fiage. People are not going to remember Fiage, but he was alive.
He's working for Forgotten Empires right now.
What?
Yeah.
I'm so
Fiage
happy.
And Bruh as well.
What kind of work? I did
they
not
are
know about that.
balance testers and things.
That's amazing.
I met them both in Heidelberg during Red Bull Volo 6.
Legacy.
They both were there. Yeah.
Amazing. I did not know that. Fiage was, I think you and Fiage were the first streamers I saw. So I have a lot
back then.
I have a lot of nostalgia for both of you guys. Amazing. Good to know. So Brazil, Argentina, a lot of top players, of course.
The bottom bracket at the moment, Brazil beat Germany 3-2.
Oh,
because I heard earlier that Germany won, but apparently Brazil...
That might have been me saying that.
Brazil actually won 3-2 against Germany in the bottom bracket, so they will face...
Wait, but I was watching it. It was 2-1 to Germany, and they were playing Black Forest. So I guess my brain just kind of went, okay, Black Forest, Germany's going to win anyway.
Yeah, they were. It was actually 2-0 to Germany, and then Brazil made a reverse sweep.
That's crazy. I was watching Black Forest, and I guess in my mind, well, Germany's gonna win this.
Of course,
but guess not.
But yeah, they will face the loser of Argentina and who was it? Finland. Yes, that's gonna be a tough one.
Okay, so Germany is out.
Germany is out apparently.
No, Phil's Nilly man in this case. A very, very accurate one.
Yeah. And the last one is France and Austria, actually. So Lyra's team still in it, and they will play off for the chance to face China. So we have, 7 teams left then? Nation Cup still.
No math on stream.
Yeah, 7 teams to go, I think. No math. But yeah, that should be done in a couple of weeks. I think middle of May-ish is when the tournament is going to conclude. It's been a great... Nations Cups are always sort of like to bring the community together. They're amazing.
Amazing, the work. Paradox.
Right.
Again, I'm going to start naming the devs, the administrators. I'm going to forget names. But Paradox, I know is there. Koyotl 96, I guess his name, is there as well. Unfortunately, he's retiring for health reasons. He wasn't too specific about it. But, huge shout out. One of the most hardworking administrators in our scene, I'll say.
He ran like AoE Olympics as well in the past, and that was a huge effort as well from him. So hopefully he can come back sometime.
Yeah, we wish him all the best, of course. And then Viper. Yes. We still have, obviously, one of the grand slams of Age of Empires 2 to look forward to in the month of May. King of the Desert is finally back. This will be the 5th iteration of the now legendary Arabia-only tournament, which this time boasts a prize pool of $80,000. The whole thing is decent. The whole thing is organized by MemTV and his team. And as an Arabia player myself, I'm incredibly excited about the tournament. And not just because of the map itself, but also because I think Mem's tournaments always deliver big time. And you, having won 3 of the previous 4 iterations of the tournament, will obviously be considered one of the big favorites to win the whole thing. So how's your preparation going to look like for this one, amigo?
So there's the thing with King of the Desert is we have qualifiers, right? Where there are no direct invites. Everyone has to qualify. And I agree with what you said as well. MemTV events usually deliver. I can't remember an event where it was like, oh, this wasn't. Really
even when they
good.
try new things, you
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
like the 9 Villager Start
Yeah.
stuff. I remember the Mangrove Shallows Cup, which a lot of people were very skeptical about
Yeah.
it, and that was still a nice tournament too.
I think that's the one that probably was a bit too far with all the like galleys on Arabia.
I think
and
you're,
things like
you're
that.
just going to saying that because you lost to doubt.
Anyway, let's focus on the task at hand. King of the Desert. Yeah, I mean, I've played all the editions before, right? Like you said as well, I've won 3. It's an amazing tournament. I always have fond memories. Not only because I won, but just because like there's so many good games, and
People try really hard.
What I like,
thing, right?
yeah, what I like about it is like part of it. Obviously, I like that there's variation in tournaments. That we have some maps where like some tournaments where there's a lot of different maps, and you have only maps like Arena or Arabia. And what's the most enjoyable to me with Arabia is that there's so many good civs in Arabia. So you see a lot of variety. You don't see like, oh, it's going to be this water map, then, oh, there's only going to be this or this civ. But you have so many civs that can compete, and especially now right after a big balance patch, I think no one is 100% sure exactly where the civs are.
I didn't think about that. It's actually so good for the tournament, isn't it?
Yeah.
So many new
timing,
strategies.
It's almost like the timing was... But yeah, like, for example, suddenly after this tournament, you might come out of it and be like, wow, the best civ right now is Malay, you know?
Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. We don't know. We're going to probably, like, the meta is going to be developed throughout the tournament, throughout the qualifiers. And yeah, I'm super hyped for it. Again, I think Arabia as well is one of those tournaments or maps where it's like there's the most possible candidates for winning as well. Like last year we had Winchester was in the final, right? That was probably his like most breakthrough performance so far. And I mean, like when I can probably mention 10 names where like I would not be surprised if they're like top 4.
If they're in a very, very top spot, indeed. And people probably cannot imagine this, but back in the day, if you had an Arabia only tournament, and if it was, or if you had an Arabia game and it was free pick, it would be Aztecs against Aztecs 99% of the time, right? Maybe Mayans would be thrown
some
in,
Huns.
maybe Huns, but that's it.
People didn't know how good Chinese was back then.
Well, it was a lot harder, you know, with all the lag to get a good and decent, smooth start, right? And the sheep have, man, do you remember sheep spawning outside of your view base?
I don't want to go think about it.
And like in a pond, man, I have nightmares of that. All right, Viper. So another thing people love to discuss whenever King of the Desert is announced is how the map script will look like for Arabia. And this matters a lot because the script ends up being the same that's used for the Arabia map, the matchmaking system. Now, I remember people complained a lot about the Arabia version of the King of the Desert 4 because it was very open and very thin wood lines. And I think that's not a huge deal in a tournament setting where people will always draft strong civilizations for the map, but it does become a problem when you're playing random civs on the ladder because then, you know, the faster civs will have an almost insurmountable advantage against the slower civ that cannot wall because of the map. Now, for me personally, from the games I played, they feel pretty good. The map feels balanced. I've had a lot of fun games in it. How do the pros feel about it?
I can't speak for everyone, obviously, but like I opened the map when it was first released. I had a few, like I went through, like what I usually do is I take the map, I put it in the editor, and I just generate a ton of different maps to see like how this looks. Back then, I was not happy at all because it was
back then. What's back then?
Before they made the recent adjustments.
Right.
I think they've adjusted the map 2 or 3 times since it was initially released. Because I saw the huge variety in like the map could be super open, it could be super closed, and the consistency was like
it's just not there.
Exactly. So it's like. What you do then is that you add another random factor in like, okay, Britain's is a really good civ, but they're only good when the map is semi-closed.
Right.
So if you suddenly it's like you're taking huge risks with and gambling with civs as well, right? Oh, I pick Burgundians because Burgundians are amazing if the map is closed, but if it's open, they're not that good, you know? So we're heading down that kind of thing like an issue rather, if the map script has such a big variance. I think with the most recent adjustments they've made, it feels pretty solid. You can still have the wide open map, you can still have a closed map, but it feels like more consistently in the middle ground, which I think is what it's supposed to be. But yeah, personally, I'm not a big fan of like, oh, I cannot draft this civ just in case the map is open, or I cannot draft this civ just in case the map is closed. You know?
Right.
Because that takes away a little bit of preparation, and I think
a bit of gambling in there.
I think preparation should be rewarded. But yeah, like I said, I think they've landed at a pretty good script, and I think it's going to be great for the tournament.
So the tournament hasn't even started yet, but there already seems to be a bit of controversy surrounding the exclusion of the Flemish Revolution, which our viewers will remember had a big impact during NAC4. I personally dislike the decision for two main reasons. But before I talk about them, let me just reinforce that I absolutely give Mem and his team the benefit of the doubt, just because they've proven time and time again they know what they're doing. And of course, it's their tournament, and I totally respect the decision. But yeah, I guess I just wish they would have waited to see how the nerf to the tech actually pans out, you know? And it's not entirely clear to me the tech was a problem on Arabia to begin with.
It could be.
It could. You don't know. That's one of the things. And now you do have a nerf to the technology, but also to the unit itself, right? The Flemish militia. So I feel like maybe you could have waited a little bit just to see how it goes.
I agree. I think it was heavily influenced by the NAC conclusion.
Yes.
Right? The end of NAC was 200 Vils, Flemish Revolution, game over.
And to be fair, Mem has hated the technology forever.
Yeah.
Everyone
has.
It was announced, Mem just completely hated.
On that, I think Flemish Revolution is bad now, by the way. I don't think it's a good upgrade anymore. So I personally think they didn't have to exclude it. I don't mind it because I don't like it. I don't mind that it's out excluded because people can still probably make it work if they have a lead. But I think the tech right now is not very good. So I'm happy about that.
Okay, so you think it would have been a good decision either way?
I think, I mean, I don't want to see the tech because I don't like when you can instantly spawn 150 military. That's stupid, in my opinion, in an RTS game. I don't feel like it's a grand strategy decision. You can argue it is, but at the same time, I don't feel like there should be a decision that can be that impactful in an RTS game. But like, I don't think the tech is very good at the moment. People would still find a way to use it probably sometimes and win. But I keep in mind the Flemish Revolution have less pierce armor now as well. They kind of die to arrow fire. So even like diving in under castles and town centers, you're going to lose a lot more than before.
Right.
So I personally think the unit isn't that good anymore.
I think this was like 2 days ago. I saw a game between Barles and Jordan, and the situation was kind of even. And Barles goes for Flemish Revolution on Arabia. Yeah, it was Arabia. And Jordan easily defends it, and he goes on to win the game. To be fair, Jordan's army was cavalry archers mostly.
But that's the counter now.
Probably the best unit to deal with it, right? But do you feel like in its old form, it would have been a problem on Arabia, on an open map where you can run with economy?
I think. I mean, I didn't see the game that you referred to. I'm not sure how.
No, I just mean in general, and I mean this one game.
No, I think it would have been a problem.
Okay.
Yeah. You can still like Burgundians. If you get out of the opening, okay, you're never gonna lose in the late castle age, early imp. You're always gonna be fine because you have a great economy and good units. And then you would always just like play the long game, like you would see if you get any relics, and then eventually just be like, okay, this is the time. I'm gonna just now add 30 vills in the queue. So as I lose my military units, I'm gonna have 170, 180 villagers. You add 5, 6, 7 bombard cannons, 4 trebs. Click the button and game over.
That's it. Click the button. Okay, so apart from the usual suspects, you, Leary, Hera, Yo, is there, a less well-known player, and I'm making air quotes here, for lack of a better term, you think could do exceptionally well on Arabia, on an Arabia-only tournament?
Again, I think right now, the people that are good at adapting to the new balance changes. Like I think a player like Doubt, for example, he's gonna have good ideas and good adaptation to the new civilization balance. So I think a guy like Doubt could surprise a lot of people. I don't know. I think preparation playing a lot. Obviously, we have 2 qualifiers first. Like, by the way, we're recording this on Thursday, so qualifiers start on Saturday, which this episode might be live by the time the qualifiers are happening.
Still not quite sure. Yeah, and you just mentioned it's kind of an important thing actually, because usually for this big tournaments, for these big Grand Slams, top players are invited to the tournament based on past results. But this time, no invitations. How do you feel about that, actually?
Personally, I would prefer to be invited.
Uh-oh. Yeah, small technical difficulties here.
Personally, I would prefer to be invited because I won the last one. And also, you never know, right?
You won 3 of them.
With qualifiers, there are very specific dates. So sometimes people can't attend 1, maybe 2 qualifiers. I'm in a bit of a pickle myself where I have a surgery on... so the first qualifier I cannot play because I'm traveling I'll be gone. It's not something I'm willing to cancel. So but the second one I have a surgery 2 days before because you will remember NAC I had some issues, my gallbladder, and I'm gonna have it removed. I want to remove it ASAP because
all right.
I don't want that pain to come back because it was not pleasant. So I have that 2 days before the second qualifier, and that's the only one I can play. I've seen online that people can travel back the same day if they feel fine. I'm not sure if I'll be allowed to because they said I should stay in the hospital 2 days. But I will push to go back hopefully Friday. So I'll be home in time to play the qualifier. But yeah, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
Well, this is a big drama moment here. We could have potentially a King of the Desert fight without Viper. Well, first of all, I wish you all the best. I hope everything goes. Was that the only thing that was left to do? There was no possible treatment anymore?
I mean, no, when I went to the checkup after NAC, it was like, I have a chronic inflammation on my gallbladder and the pain will return. So it's like, you should probably get removed. I'm fairly young for removing it. Like usually people have it when they're fairly older, but I mean, I don't want that pain to return, so I'm just going to do it because you can live a completely fine life without it, so it's not a problem. But yeah, regarding the qualifiers, I'm still very optimistic. I think it's going to be fine because I mean, from what I've seen, it's a very easy surgery. It's not complicated, so I imagine I'll be back home at least Friday.
Expect to be back
I expect to be back and expect to play the second qualifier. Just hope it's not too much discomfort, and I mean, who knows? In the end, if it doesn't work out, health is wealth.
Mean, you made it to the semifinals of a Grand Slam NEC4 with huge pain. So, I mean, you'll get through this, I'm sure. You'll get through this.
Yeah.
All right, to finish off here, guys, we're going to have a very quick and very short Q&A session. And so let's go with this. Clayton Kowalski asks, can we get this on Spotify? Yes, this has been asked a lot, and it's out of my control, of course, but I've been told this episode and the first episode will both be released simultaneously 48 hours after this episode is posted on YouTube. So that's probably going forward. That's how it's going to be. 2 days after the video is posted on YouTube, it's going to be available on Spotify. Don't forget, the podcast is now named Town Center. Question for Viper here, for the pro player. The No FX Lag Wagon asks, I'm curious why Teutons are being played more with the current Monk meta.
Well, they aren't being played more. I mean, they are very frequent in like team games, especially like Rage Force, for example, Arena. They're a very good civ there. I mean, I played them Red Bull 5 finals last game. I picked them all the time.
Oh, wait. Red Bull finals, that was the fifth one. You mean that one against Berbers, if I'm not mistaken, exactly. Against Leary. Wow, what a game that was.
No, I love Teutons. I think they're a great civ in 1-on-1 as well, and team games. The Monk resistant bonus in particular is super good. And I guess I disagree with the statement that they're not being played.
Okay, all right. Andres Peredo. I remember your name, sir. He wants to know, what about having some sort of calendar so everybody knows more or less when the S-tier tournaments will be in advance? Excellent question, my friend, and one we've asked Microsoft about many, many times before. The answer to that is a bit frustrating, but I'll paraphrase what Neely told me in an interview when he was still the tournament coordinator for the franchise. An official tournament calendar will always have to be hosted on an official Age of Empires 2 website. And what Neely was repeatedly told is that hosting such a website is not a priority for Microsoft. It seems like such a simple thing to do, but that's where we stand. If you, as a tournament host, are awarded sponsorship money from Microsoft, they will share with you the tournament calendar for the running year, so you can decide yourself when and how to host your tournament, so it doesn't clash with other tournaments. But that information will be under an NDA, which means you cannot make that information public on your own. So it has to be on an official Microsoft website. It's frustrating. So the only thing we can do is hope that Microsoft realizes how important this actually could be. For players, for smaller casters, for everybody, actually.
I think as well, like, you just want your tournament to be out there as soon as possible as well, so you avoid conflicts with, for example, I mean, people still, like, they travel, they want to book vacations during summer times, whatnot. If there's a tournament suddenly, like, popping up, like, you're in that spot where you, like, have to decide, do I cancel my trip or do I not play the tournament?
Right. And the thing that's still very important to know, a lot of our pro players are actually semi-pros, right? They have a life, they have a job. Sure. A lot of them have a job. And they obviously need to know in advance, or it would be good to know in advance, can I participate in this tournament? Yes, can I participate in this tournament? Can I not? And that's very hard to do, of course, if you don't know it in advance. Okay, last one for you, Viper. Let's take this one here from BL. BL asks Viper, what's the deal with Viper's wrist and finger straps?
Okay, so man, I feel like half of this is a Viper health podcast. But yeah, I have a benign tumor in my wrist. It's been there for a couple of years. It pretty much gives me discomfort while playing. It's not really very painful, but I get like really easily tired in my arm and wrist, and like I feel like there's a blockage there where it's like hindering my movement. The finger straps are just because I had an injury during a football match when I was like 15 years old. I came out of the challenge. I was dribbling past two guys. They both tackled me at the same time. It was a cluster F, if you will.
What a messy.
After I came out of that, my finger was just kind of out of position, and I didn't go and get it. I went to the local doctor on my island to check it out, and he said, no, you cannot do anything about this. And then I had another hit on it like a year later, and I went to a proper doctor in like a bigger city, and he said, well, if you came right away, we could have fixed this. So it's like, was a bit unfortunate, but I mean, like, it's not a hindrance to my life, and I'm able to play and compete still, so I'm happy. Although I would prefer to be without, especially the wrist thing.
All right, amazing, my friend Viper. This was great seeing you, my friend.
Likewise.
It was a lot of fun. You're gonna go home right away? You have time for a drink with me? What was it?
I'm trying to get home ASAP because I gotta get traveling tomorrow. So.
All right, understandable. And in any case, you guys, I shall see you and you guys in early June, and that means that the third episode of this podcast will be slightly delayed a few days, but there's a very good reason for that. For the next episode, we will have the pleasure to welcome a very special guest here in Berlin. I wasn't allowed to reveal who that will be, so I guess you just have to tune in to find out. We'll record that episode shortly after the conclusion of King of the Desert 5, which means the event will probably take up a large portion of next episode's talking points. Hope to see you then, and thank you so much for listening. If you happen to enjoy the work we're doing here, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It really does help us a lot.
And leave some questions if you have any questions for the Q&A.
Absolutely correct. We'll be reading them, and we might answer a couple of those. Have a great one, guys. Was very nice to see you again, Viper. See you next time.
Likewise. See ya.